This will be our first video in the process costing series where we're discussing the differences between job costing and process costing. So let's first talk about job costing. As we've talked before, job costing will have we can have three, for example here, three different work in process accounts for job 100, job 101, job 102. And each one of those jobs will take a certain amount of product cost. Direct materials, direct labor, and overhead, remember, make up our product cost. Once we've completed those jobs, they moved into finished goods. Then we would simply sell the job. It becomes cost of goods sold. Now if we look at this into T accounts, we see materials, again, move into work in process. Labor, whether it be direct and indirect, are credited to wages payable and applied to work in process. Remember, our materials and our labor are both direct cost, so they're directly traceable to a job. And overhead is applied to work in process via some allocation rate that we have created based on estimates and a cost driver. Then once the job is completed, it moves from work in process with a credit into finished goods with a debit. Then of course we sell the good, we credit finished goods, debit cost of goods sold. So in job costing, we can have an individual work in process account for every job, whereas in process costing, we'll have a work in process account for processes that a product may have to go through. So remember, process costing is when we continually produce the exact same product over and over and over again. For example, number 2 pencils. In this scenario, let's say we are creating Jelly Belly jelly beans. So the first process a jelly bean has to go through is the center. We have to create the center of the product first. So in the centers process, we're going to need a certain amount of direct materials, a certain amount of direct labor, and a certain amount of manufacturing overhead. Then once the center of the Jelly Belly is complete, the center is then transferred to the shells process. And in the shells process, we need additional materials, labor, and overhead, because it's likely that we have different labor, different people completing the shells process than we're completing the centers process. So we have different labor, we probably have different types of materials, and it may be in a different building altogether, so we may need different lights and machines and that type of thing. Then once the shells have been added to the Jelly Belly, they must be packaged. So the completed shelled Jelly Belly is moved to packaging, where we would likely need more materials, more labor, and overhead. Then once it goes through the final process, it is transferred into finished goods, where it then awaits to be sold, and once it's sold, it's costed as cost of goods sold. If we look at this process in T accounts, we find again, our materials move into each process as they're needed, labor moves into each process as it is needed, and overhead is applied to each process as it is needed. Once the product gets through the final process, it moves into finished goods, and then it waits to be sold, and then it moves into cost of goods sold.